Hello, thousands around the world. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp, and thank you, honestly, for continuing to care about what the hell is going on in this world, to care about the genocide that's being perpetrated with our blood money, to care about the reality versus what your mainstream media is spitting out. I'm going to be talking about that. I'm also going to be talking about how we are seeing the collapse of U.S. foreign policy in many regards around the world right now. We are seeing a shift, a sea change, third thing that sounds like stuff changing. We are seeing a major sea change along with other foreign policy collapses that we've seen over the past year by the United States. So it really is when you put it all, when you add it all up and look down the list as to everything that is going wrong for this empire. It is a major shift we're seeing right now. And obviously, in many ways, that's good. But the part of it, there's plenty of it that's not good, such as, the genocide being perpetrated right now by Israel against Palestinians. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about all that. So please click subscribe, click share, click thumbs up, and let's get going. Here is some video by just while I continue to talk about this, I'll be showing some video of the destruction by journalist Motaz Azazia. I don't mean when I say destruction by him, I don't mean he did it. I don't think he did hardly any of that. I think, no, he's showing you the destruction, just one small area of the decimation perpetrated by Israel against Gazans who are being told to leave when they can't leave. So here are some updates on that front. 5,791 people killed already by Israel. 5,007. So we'll be topping 600 very soon. Sorry, 6,000 very soon. Obviously, they're killing far more than the number of Israelis killed by Hamas. That 5,790 number includes 2,360 children. So almost half of it, children. I mean, that's the insanity of what Israel's doing right now. Even the UN chief has said these are clear violations of international law in Gaza right now. Hamas spokesman has called on Arab and Muslim countries to sever ties with Israel. But at the minimum, I know that much of the Muslim world is demanding that Arab and Muslim nations stand up and at least do something. Hopefully that doesn't mean some large-scale, wide-ranging war that sucks everybody else into it. But I know that many Arabs and Muslims they don't expect the United States or Britain or France to do anything. So they're turning to their countries and saying, do something, stand up for this, stand up against this. Israel, the president of the World Bank has said that, has sounded alarm over the impact the war will cause on the global economy, because that's really what matters is, is money going to keep flowing well enough? Is it going to, because that's what I care about. When I see children being bombed in hospitals, I think, but is this going to hurt my wallet or what? How does that work? Because I would care, but if it's going to hurt the economy, then I don't care so much. I'm not saying the World Bank president didn't maybe say some other things, but that seems to be the key part of his message is, hey, settle down on your genocide because it might hurt the economy a little bit. Could you just turn down the genocide from 10 to 9? Just turn it down to a 9 so we can keep the economy running well. Western Erdogan, the old humanitarian president of Turkey, Erdogan, has said Western silence is worsening the humanitarian situation in Gaza. That's how bad it is that even Erdogan is like, guys, Jesus, what are you doing over there? Iranian foreign minister has said that the Palestinian groups in Gaza are acting on their own and without any direction from Tehran. That's one of the propaganda points being pushed by the U.S. and the West is to try and draw Iran into this. The U.S. has wanted not exactly a war. They just kind of want to crush Iran in a variety of ways. And unfortunately, Iran's too strong to just go all out war with them. So the U.S. wants to harm and crush Iran in myriad other ways, including sanctions, which is economic war. But Iran has stated unequivocally that they are not behind or associated with Hamas's actions. Human Rights Watch, which is not always, they often take the neoliberal line on many things, but if it gets bad enough, sometimes Human Rights Watch will actually say something about it. Human Rights Watch has slammed Israel for committing war crimes against Palestinians. So even these pretty liberal humanitarian organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, even they have been saying, look, this is a humanitarian catastrophe. I don't think they're quite ready to use the word genocide because they don't want to, piss anybody off. God forbid we call it what it is. Also, we must remember that along with the almost 6,000 that have been murdered by Israel since Hamas's attack, Israel, the state of Israel has 10,000 Palestinians being held hostage right now. They've doubled that number just over the past 2 weeks. So it was 5,000 before the Hamas attack, held in Israeli prisons. Almost none of them having done anything that warrants keeping them in prisons. And of course, there's Gaza, which is an open air prison. But in terms of actually imprisoned, like you're in a cell, a small cell in Israel, it was 5,000 before Hamas's attack. Now it's at 10,000, meaning since the attack, Israel has taken 5,000 hostages. You don't see that talked about at all in your mainstream media. And so I covered that yesterday, but a breaking point in that on that front is a second Palestinian has quote unquote died in Israeli custody since the attack, which means has been executed. So 2 Palestinians have been murdered while in Israeli custody, whereas Hamas right now is freeing some of the hostages. Israel has taken 5,000 and murdered 2 so far. They probably will continue to execute. Israel will probably continue to execute hostages. And keep in mind that, again, the mainstream media will not speak of this. They will not say Israel has hostages, even though they've got thousands. So there are some updates that I wanted to bring you about what's going on right now. And clearly the word is getting out to your mainstream media about what their job is right now. Now, they knew it was to do to put out Israel's propaganda, pro-Israel propaganda. That was pretty clear from the start. However, they were covering some of what was going on in terms of the genocide being perpetrated against Gaza. You can find some articles here and there. But now, if you look at exactly what's going on in your mainstream media and kind of get an overall view, not like one report here, one report there, people will often share the report by CNN saying that it's a humanitarian disaster or something like that, because that's the one time that CNN, once for 5 minutes out of 5 hours, CNN did a report talking about, talking about it from a Gazan's point of view. People will often share that one. But I thought it'd be interesting to look at real quick, see what CNN's up to kind of in a larger sense. And here is their YouTube page and the videos that they are posting. And they're posting videos every, half hour or more often than that. So you've got House GOP selects blah, blah, blah. So House GOP garbage. You've got Trump courtroom garbage. Trump's new defense, which could matter if they weren't talking about it for the 9 billionth time over the past 3 minutes. I'm not saying it's a non-story, but when you've covered it as much as they have now, it's a goddamn non-story. Then they cover the 85-year-old grandmother who was just freed by Hamas. What many in the mainstream media don't want to tell you or are leaving out of the story is that she said she was treated very well. I'll talk more about that in a second. But to keep going on, here are the recent videos put up by CNN. Ex-Trump campaign lawyer, blah, 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 more Trump stuff. Anderson Cooper realizes something about a Hamas hostage that was killed. So that's CNN covering things from Israel's point of view. Then you have Trump again. Then you have Israeli man describes being scared. So again, Israel's point of view. Then you have U.S. intel says Iranian back. So Iran propaganda. Then you have woman's account of being captured by Hamas. So yet again, Israel's point of view. Then you finally get down to, this is, after about 10 videos, you get down to one video of a CNN producer in Gaza. So this is a CNN producer that lives in Gaza trying to get his kids across the border. So you get about 10 videos down and you get one video that covers it from the Gaza's point of view, a Gazan's point of view. And this is while genocide's being perpetrated. If this were like, a boat sank or something, a plane, crashed, okay, I can see there aren't that many people involved. You don't need to cover it endlessly. But this is a goddamn genocide. This is thousands upon thousands of people being bombed, no water, no fuel, no medicine. Half of them being killed are children. This is, I want to say unprecedented. Obviously, it's not unprecedented, but it is horrific. It is in some ways close to unprecedented in a time of everyone having a cell phone and everyone being able to film what's going on. But so during all of that, CNN, it's one video from a somewhat Gazan's point of view for every 11 that are either Israeli propaganda or Trump shit. That's what CNN's bringing you. So they are largely moving on from the bombing of Gaza story. And I think that's kind of the talking point that's been sent around our mainstream media is like, yes, keep covering how scary it was to be Israeli when Hamas attacked. Keep covering, you do a little bit of like Israel bombed here or there. But in general, they seem to be moving away from coverage of this genocide. Obviously, they don't use that term, but of coverage of it at all. So then I went to MSNBC to see what videos they had put up in the past several hours. Here's what they have. David Brooks garbage about his new book. You have Michael Cohen, so that's Trump stuff. You have McCarthy, so that's GOP bickering stuff. You have, I don't even know what that is, something about voter turnout. You have more GOP bickering. You have Trump trial. Okay, so of everything posted in the past hour at MSNBC, the word Gaza or Palestinian has not been mentioned. So let's keep going. Then you've got something about the book on puberty. Imagine there's a fucking genocide going on, and they're like, well, let's talk about this book on puberty. That's the thing. Like, people are going through their pubation. I know. I made up that word. Blinken. Okay, so here we go. So here's the first of all those videos 2 hours ago. Here's the last one they put up having anything to do with Israel and Gaza. It is Blinken's view, Anthony Blinken's view of what happened. 33 Americans killed. I assume that they mean American and Israeli, or most of them are. They're joint citizens, which is very common. But 33 Americans killed in the attacks on Israel. So of all the last 2 hours, you've got one story having anything to do with Israel and Gaza, and it is from Israel's point of view. So then they finally, the one after that is finally a story about how Gaza needs more aid. Now, here's the other thing they're doing in this propaganda war is rather than saying this is a genocide, this is a war, or war crimes after war crimes after war crimes, this is the bombing of a hospital, this is the bombing of schools, this is the murder of children. Rather than take all of that, the stories, when they do highlight what's going on in Gaza, are about how Gaza needs more aid trucks. think for a moment, and they make you seem think that's normal. That's okay. That's what you should be talking about. No, you don't talk. You don't argue about how many aid trucks get into a genocide. The entire discussion should be it must stop. You don't like if someone walks into a house with 10 people and murders 7 of them and is working on murdering the last 3. You don't sit outside and go, I really think like more bottles of water should be delivered into there because the 3 that are still there, they deserve some more bottles of water. They really do because we've only gotten 4 bottles of water in since the murdering began, and they're shifting the debate because they understand that your average American, if you see a video of a damn, sorry to use the language like that, it's not really coming out right, but if you show a video of a child in a parent's arms dying in Gaza or so many other things that's going on in Gaza, your average American will feel something, unless they're a sociopath. So that meaning they're not in elected office. They will feel something. They will feel sad. And the same goes for the hostages taken from Israel and those killed in Israel. Yes, you show that stuff. Your average human will feel something, will feel sadness, will feel hurt, will feel this shouldn't be going on to some degree. I'm not saying everyone goes running outside saying we got to stop this, but they will feel something. So what do you do with all those people who are feeling something, that something should be done? And even no matter how much propaganda you pump them full of, they're going to go, but shouldn't we care about the babies in Gaza? That's still going to be there. And so what do? Well, you shift the discussion so that it's still one of caring, right? We got to get aid trucks in there. That's still a discussion about caring for these people. It's still a discussion of we should care about the children that are dying. But you notice what's happened? Now, all of a sudden, an American or whatever, anyone in the West, people in Europe, etc., who were furious that this must end. The Israeli bombing must end now. And all of the electricity and water and gasoline, all of it should be turned on immediately. Now they're arguing about how many trucks are allowed in. Well, is it 20 trucks? Because if it's 25, then I'm cool. I'm out. And I think it's fine. I think everything's fine. I'm going to stop talking about it. If it's 25. But if it's 20, it's not enough aid trucks. That's not enough bottles of water for the people being murdered. Do you see how insane this is? But that I found, so at CNN and MSNBC and the others I checked, you would find about one every 10 videos, one every 10 to 15 videos put up by these networks. You'd find one on how Gaza needs more humanitarian aid. Not a video on how Israel should stop obliterating an entire 2.2 million people. That's what the discussion is. It begins and ends there. It's not a discussion of how many trucks get through. But they're shifting the debate. And that is the mastery of the propaganda by our systems. Is, one is give you all the propaganda, of course. Yeah, you should feel for Israel. Israel has a right to defend themselves. All that garbage. Yes, all the propaganda. But then beyond that, let's shift the debate over to how many aid trucks get in. That's what we need to do. Here's a quick quote on how pathetic Biden has been. This is coming from Chris Hedges. The Biden administration slavishly doing Israel's bidding is fueling the madness. The U.S. was the only country to veto the UN Security Council resolution calling for humanitarian pauses to deliver food, medicine, water, and fuel to Gaza. It has blocked proposals for a ceasefire. It has proposed a draft UN Security Council resolution that says Israel has a right to defend itself, which is not a right to genocide, folks. Sorry. That expression does not mean you can just bomb the ever-living hell out of children. The resolution also demands Iran stop exporting arms to militias and terrorist groups threatening peace and security across the region. So he's talking about Biden being slavishly in line with Israel. And of course, Israel is really a U.S. vassal state in so many ways. And that is what I want to get to about how you're seeing the collapse of U.S. foreign policy in just several different regards around the country, around the world right now. So Israel, as Biden has said many times, I played the clip the other day, has said if Israel didn't exist, we would have to invent it. And he means the U.S. empire would have to invent it in order to have, he actually said this next part. He said to protect our interests in the region. So Israel acts as kind of a giant military base for the United States with nuclear weapons, for the United States in the Middle East. And you see what we've done to so many Middle East countries. We've utterly just destroyed them. Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. I'm not sure if Libya is Africa. I don't know if that counts as the Middle East. But anyway, we've utterly destroyed them. And part of that was having Israel sitting there with nuclear bombs ready to go. And, part of the reason it was done and part of the reason it was strategically possible. So the U.S., Israel is very much an outpost of the U.S., but Israel's foreign policy and their branding as, the only democracy, they're not a democracy in the Middle East. They are not. They are a theocratic Jewish state that has 2.2 million people in an open-air prison in just Gaza. That's just Gaza. It's not even including the West Bank and others. You can't say you're a democracy when you have millions of people in prison. And you certainly don't let them vote, but you don't even let them out. That's not a democracy. So stop calling it a democracy. So the U.S. Foreign policy is collapsing in that region. Israel is drawing other countries into this war by being so aggressive and so insane and committing genocide. And the U.S. knows that it can't, no matter how much of an empire, no matter how many trillions we spend on military, it can't get involved in a full-on regional war with Iran, and then that would draw in Saudi Arabia, and it would be utterly insane. Egypt, and but so you have the U.S. The Israel apartheid state days are numbered. I mean, you just can't have an apartheid state with this much injustice wrapped up in it, with this much murder and genocide wrapped up in it, and have it exist forever. So the days are numbered in that way. I'm not saying the U.S. won't continue to have military bases there, but you just can't have an apartheid state work like that. On top of that, besides getting bogged down in the Middle East, that obviously changes the ability of the U.S. to focus on other matters of empire. Saudi Arabia has put relations with Israel on hold and probably won't go back to that until, I don't know if it'll be years or what, if they go back, but also they've asked to join BRICS. Also, they've stood up to the United States in multiple ways. The Saudi Arabia being the most important partner, really, for the U.S. because they have so much control over the petrodollar, which is where so much of our power comes from. The fact that we can print as much money as we want and it keeps having buying power is because it is the petrodollar. Fossil fuels are still largely, even with Russia pulling out of it, still largely sold and bought in dollars. But BRICS is quickly changing that. Russia is winning the proxy war against Ukraine, but really it's against the United States. But Russia's winning the proxy war. Even if the U.S. drags that out for another several years, it's no one thinks Russia's on the cusp of losing. So, yes, the U.S. got some of what they wanted in that proxy war, but most of it they did not. The sanctions have largely backfired. They've sent Russia running into the arms of China, splitting the global economy in two. Now, that split would have happened eventually, but it certainly was sped up by this proxy war that the U.S. has perpetrated and pushed for. It should have been over. This proxy war should have been over the day it started. They sat down at a peace table and were about to literally sign a peace deal, Ukraine and Russia, but the U.S. and UK made sure to stop that. China is growing every day and is, now essentially the most powerful economy in the world in most regards. They're not involved or bogged down in the empire games that the U.S. is. That doesn't mean China doesn't have interests and things like that, but they are not. They have one military base outside of China as opposed to 800, 900 that the U.S. has. They do not spend $1 trillion a year on military. They haven't bombed anyone since World War II. They're just not bogged down into these games of empire the way the U.S. is. And to bring it back, even though I'm talking about the collapse of U.S. foreign policy, to bring it back to whether that has anything to do with domestic policy, China is proving to the world that they can take care of their citizens. They have brought 850 million Chinese people out of extreme poverty over just the past 30 years. 850 million. That's over 2 United States worth of people out of extreme poverty. And China is actually building their infrastructure, building up their ability to take care of their citizens. Whereas the U.S., I can just look outside. It's collapsing. The roads are just potholes now. You have to have a monster truck just to get on the roads now. The public schools are intentionally collapsing, putting out dumber and dumber children. Have you talked to an American child these days? Whoo-wee. Can't put together a whole sentence. Neither can Joe Biden. Neither can Donald Trump. So you see, even their heroes, even the so-called leaders of the country, they can't put together a full sentence either. So who do they have to look up to? But the public schools, the healthcare catastrophe, medical debt, all these things that could be easily solvable if they gave a flying tip of a turd about an average American. But they don't. None of them do. Republicans, Democrats, doesn't matter. And so they're proving to the world that the United States stands for certain things. They stand for not giving flying shit about their own people. They stand for being completely morally bankrupt, endorsing genocide perpetrated by Israel with U.S. bombs, with U.S. weaponry. They endorse the terrorist attacks on pipelines and critical infrastructure between Russia and Germany, one of our allies, blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. So we apparently endorse just blowing up the infrastructure of other countries that you are not technically even at war with. Just go ahead, just blow up people's infrastructure. See how that goes. See how quickly that sends us running towards nuclear war. They endorse, obviously, the murder of millions. 6 million have been killed by our war on terror, according to Brown University's cost of war study. That's just since 2021. Sorry, that's just since 2001. 6 million people killed by our global war on terror. And that's what the U.S. represents now. So the U.S. empire, our foreign policies collapsing, and the U.S. leaders can no longer go to the global community and say, look at what all this great stuff we're doing. Look at it. We really are holding things together. We're the good guys in this thing. It's all just unraveling all at once. And Israel is not making it easier. Now, I know the U.S. is fully endorsing this genocide, but I think the U.S. would honestly prefer that Israel continue to be this massive military state while not committing genocide, because it'd be easier for the U.S. to have an outpost in the Middle East that wasn't genociding people. And in terms of what exactly that, where am I getting that term genocide? Rights lawyers released a legal analysis of the U.S. complicity in Israel's genocide. The United States is not only failing to prevent genocide, but it is complicit. Expert attorneys from the U.S.-based Center for Constitutional Rights said there is a credible case based on powerful evidence that Israel is attempting to commit or is committing genocide in the occupied Palestinian territory, and specifically against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. The U.S. has a duty under Article 1 of the 1948 Genocide Convention to prevent acts of genocide, especially when they're done with your own bombs. An obligation that has been domestically implemented through U.S. criminal law. The legal and factual analysis provided by the Center for Constitutional Rights describes how, through its ongoing unconditional military, diplomatic, and political support to Israel, the United States is not only failing to prevent genocide, but is complicit. Under international law, the U.S. and responsible U.S. citizens, including and up to the president, can be held accountable for their role in furthering genocide. According to the International court of justice, a state's obligation to prevent genocide and the corresponding duty to act arise at the instant that the state learns of or should normally have learned of the existence of a serious risk that genocide will be committed. So do you think the U.S. has heard of the risk that there might be a genocide done against Gaza? Do you think they might have heard of that? Considering Biden was just over there? No, he'd rather argue over the number of trucks. Oh, we got 14 trucks through. Well, that's fine. Speaking of whether they've heard of it, here's even The Guardian, which The Guardian has largely, ever since 2014, just pumped out neoliberal garbage, but every once in a while, they're a little bit better than your average. This title is, Israel is clear about its intentions in Gaza. World leaders cannot plead ignorance of what is coming. The UN is warning of a risk of genocide against Palestinians. Future pleas of if I knew then what I knew now, what I know now. And that has been the common refrain of many world leaders after a genocide is committed, right? They go, if I just knew then what I know now, man, if we just had known what was happening, over in this country or that country, we would have really acted. No, you wouldn't, because you knew what was happening. For many of the guilty men and women who plunged Iraq into blood and chaos, this became something of a stock phrase. In 2004, the then Tory leader in the UK, Michael Howard, was asked if he would still have supported the British government's motion backing the Iraq War, the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Only 16 Conservative MPs rebelled a year earlier. He replied, "If I knew then what I know now, that would have caused a difficulty. I couldn't have voted for that resolution. If I knew then what I know now, I would not have voted that way," said Hillary Clinton during her doomed campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination. Labor's deputy leader, Harriet Harman, "If I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have voted for it." So you get the point. They're all going to say this after we continue to see genocide in Gaza and Palestine. If we just knew then what we know now, we know it. We know it now. Now is the time we know it. And this goes for, obviously genocide is far more important than some of these other aspects, but this goes for a lot of the things that it's like they go, well, if only we known, like when Russiagate entirely collapsed, on various aspects of it, the media said, well, if we just had known, like with the whole Russian bots, when they eventually proved that the Russian bot armies was fake news and that the entity that was telling everyone that everything was Russian bots, the Hamilton 68, was complete bullshit. When all that was going on, and the media goes, well, if we didn't know then that it was all, yeah, we did, because I was covering it. A lot of us were covering how it was all bullshit. So with many of these things, they say long after the China surveillance balloon, right? The Pentagon has now admitted that was not a spy balloon. Our own Pentagon has said it wasn't a spy balloon. And they go, well, we didn't know at the time. Yeah, I did. I knew it wasn't a spy balloon. Because if China wants to spy on us, they'll use satellites. They don't need to drift balloons across our country like 12-year-olds. With the Cuban acoustic super weapon that was giving U.S. diplomats headaches, short-term headaches in Cuba. And now the CIA has admitted that no such acoustic weapon exists. And, if you ask the news media now about it, they go, well, we didn't know at the time. Yeah, I did. I was talking about it every day, that there was no acoustic cannon being used by Cuba. So you see this again and again. They go, oh, if we just known. Yeah, I did. I knew. And I was talking about it constantly. It just happens again and again. All right. I want to play this clip of the former Prime Minister of Israel admitting, he doesn't realize what he's admitting. He's admitting that if you cover this news story of what's going on in Israel, Gaza, Palestine, if you cover it accurately, then it you would end up supporting Palestinians. He doesn't even realize that he's admitting to that. So I'm going to play that clip. It's a very short clip in 1 second. But I just wanted to pause for a second and say, first of all, in a few minutes, all the live stream is going to continue at rumble.com/LeeCamp. It's free to watch there, as well as my locals page at my locals community. That's leecamp.net if you want to join locals. But rumble.com/LeeCamp, completely free to watch over there. I am going to play this clip for everybody, but then we'll be headed over to rumble.com/LeeCamp. Also, you see it on the screen there. I've created a Linktree page for all my links, linktree.com/LeeCamp, and it's got everything there, or most everything. It's got my link to my podcast, link to these live streams that are 4 days a week, link to Rumble, link to Locals community, link to my main website or my other website, link to radindymedia.com, the news aggregator I created with Eleanor Goldfield. It's got all those links. It's got a tip jar as well. So if you're ever looking for my links, all that stuff, my Twitter, it's all at linktree.com/LeeCamp. So if you ever can't remember where you found stuff or something like that, linktree.com/LeeCamp. And yeah, I hope you'll join up at Locals, which is at leecamp.net. Or if you go to Linktree, you'll find it there. But all right, let's get to this clip. And I am, for those of you who are new to my stuff, I am 4 days a week. So, and special thank you to everybody who joins me all 4 days. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I skip the middle of the week because I just lay in the fetal position and drink a variety of alcohols and cry. That's my Wednesdays. And, I thought about live streaming it, but just to have that Wednesday live stream. But I for now, I'm still skipping Wednesdays. So Monday, Tuesday, I do these where I report the news. Wednesday, drink and cry, not live streamed. Thursday, Friday, more of these live streams. So if you want to join me every day that I live stream, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, all free at rumble.com/LeeCamp. All right. Let's get to this amazing clip where the former president of Israel does not realize what he's saying. It's a 9-second clip, so we'll get to the truth quickly here.
If the international media is objective, it serves Hamas.
Did you catch that? If the international media is objective, meaning reports the actual reality of everything, it serves Hamas. Now, the reason he's saying that is because he's trying to pressure media to not be objective. Don't cover the reality. Cover the Israeli propaganda side of things, and that will help us. So he's saying it from that dynamic. But for anyone with a moral compass that isn't, just going blah, 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 and completely broken, and anyone with half a brain cell, then you go, wait a second, objective reality serves Hamas and by extension Palestinians, meaning if you get the real truth, if you sat down and went through every real true news story, you would ultimately side with Palestinians. That's what he's saying. And so it's really a breathtaking admission. He thinks he's doing it to pressure. He thinks his goal is to pressure the media, the mainstream media especially, to do propaganda for Israel. But it's an incredible admission. So I'll play the rest of it. That was only half of it. I'll play the full 9 seconds. So buckle in. Get a bucket of popcorn. Get any, put if you want to change into pajamas to really get comfortable. We're going to go through all 9 seconds of this.
If the international media is objective, it serves Hamas. If it just shows both sides, it serves Hamas.
If it shows both sides. So he's in that second half, he's going beyond objective, because objective might be that, let's say, Hamas killed, they're saying, 13 to 1,500 Israelis. So if Hamas killed 13 to 1,500 and Israel has already killed 6,000, then you would show, I'm not good with the math. What is that? Fourth? Yeah, 1/4. So that means if you show 4 stories, one of them should be about an Israeli that died, and the other 3 should be about a Palestinian that died. That would be showing both sides, right? Because you've got 1,500 on one side and you got 6,000 on the other. Let's show both sides. 3 videos showing Palestinians suffering, 1 video showing Israeli suffering or those who have died in Israel. That would be showing both sides. But that serves well, no, that wouldn't even be, showing both sides would be actually be incorrect, right? Because you'd be showing 1-to-1. But anyway, his point is both the first half and that second half of that 9 seconds, he is admitting that reality puts you on the side of Palestinians. That is what that sentence just means. If you were objective, if you saw the truth, if you saw the reality on the ground, and that is what our media was reporting every day, you would side with Palestinians. And me, as an American, Jewish by birth, atheist by choice, who has been to Israel as a teenager, me and my family visited Israel, and yet I've been objective, and I've realized that the objective real world is on the side of Palestinians, and this is an apartheid state. And let's just watch him admit this one more time. 9 seconds, the entire world should see.
If the international media is objective, it serves Hamas. If it just shows both sides, it serves Hamas. If the international media is objective, it serves Hamas.
So you get the point. It really is a breathtaking admission, even though he thinks he's helping Israel by saying these things. Unbelievable admission. All right, I'm about to bring to you the Hollywood celebrities who are actually supporting Palestinians. What? How could that ever happen? But there are many Hollywood celebrities that for once are not just siding with the U.S. empire's wars. And when I say U.S. empire, I include Israel in that. I'm also going to play Antony Blinken's interview with CBS, Face the Nation. It's as horrifying as you can imagine. All of that is at rumble.com/Lee Camp. For those of you watching on other platforms, they're going to cut off, except for locals, of course. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. But if you want to support this show, if you want to see this keep going, if you think I'm putting out anything of value, you'll notice there's no ads during this thing. I'm not holding up a can of, I don't want to say a real one, so unicorn energy drink. I'm not telling you, oh, go out and buy colloidal silver and pump it into your eyeballs, because I don't get any money from those. There's no corporate entity that is funding me. It only comes from you. So if you want to see this show keep going 4 days a week, then become a member for 38 cents an episode at leecamp.net. That'll take you to my locals page. But you also get to be part of the locals community, which is an amazing group of people. And I'm going to do an extra segment just for them at the end of this live stream, which I often do. Amazing community over there. And I hope you will join up at leecamp.net. You also get my latest book, Dangerous Ideas. You'll get that for free when you become a member. All right, rumble.com/Lee Camp.